All right, welcome back to our Fusion 360 tutorials. We are going to go ahead and practice after our first tutorial. So if you haven't looked at the first tutorial video where we kind of know the layout of Fusion and start with some simple two-dimensional sketches using the extrude feature to create our three-dimensional model, you might want to look at that first. If you've modeled before and you're just looking for some practice, that's awesome. We're going to go ahead and do this image that I found online. There's millions of technical drawings or practice CAD drawings that you could find on a simple image search. This one looks complicated enough with enough logical thought process needed to actually bring it to fruition, but we are going to use the same exact tools. We're going to use rectangles, lines, circles, extrudes, extrude cuts, and that's it. And we're going to be logical about it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one a little bit faster. Right away, whatever this thing is, it looks like it could be part of like a marble run. I don't even know. Is I see two rectangles that are perpendicular to one another that make the shape of almost like an L. I see one here that is 96 by 64. And then I see one here that is 48 by 64 that eventually gets rounded off. But to me, that looks like a rectangle here, perpendicular to this rectangle that almost makes the shape of the letter L. And that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to start with the base, and that is 96 by 64. So I'm going to come into Fusion. I'm going to create a sketch. Does not matter which plane I pick. I'm going to use a center rectangle because I'm designing around the origin again. And I'm going to make this 96, and I'm going to tab over by 64. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I'm going to finish sketch. And I'm going to go back to my drawing to see how tall this is. And right here, it looks like it is 16 millimeters tall. That's how much it is extruded by. I'm going to go back to Fusion. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to start to pull this up. I'm going to make it 16 millimeters. Now I'm just going to change my orientation a little bit by moving the view cube. And remember, I can click and hold and drag just so I have this kind of set up in the right orientation. I'm going to turn this because I'm going to put my next rectangle over here. And I'm going to turn it so I can see this face. I'm going to create a sketch. And this time I'm going to do a 2-point rectangle. And I don't remember how high it is. So I'm just going to draw it, right? I'm going to go back to the image, and I'm going to see that it is still 64 wide, and its height right here is 48. But that 48, right, includes the 16. So I'm doing this a little bit different. I'm going to make the rectangle and kind of drag it out. So I need 48 plus 16, and that's going to be 64 as well, right? 48 plus 16 is 64. So I'm going to go back into my image. I'm going to use my sketch dimension tool. I'm going to make sure that this is 64. And I'm going to make sure that this is also 64. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and hit finish sketch. I'm going to come back, and when I look, I want to see how thick this is. It is also 16, right? And I'm going to come in 16 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and hit extrude, and I'm going to extrude that this way. Negative 16 millimeters. And remember that negative doesn't mean less than 0. It just is the direction. So for some reason, Fusion established a push as positive. Here, this pull is negative. And I go ahead and I hit OK. And there is that L that I was talking about. If you didn't see it before, maybe you see it now. I'm going to go ahead and create now that kind of rounded off edge. I'm going to try to do it a different way. Let's see if we can learn our next new tool. So I'm going to come in here to Fusion, and if I can see, it looks like I've just rounded off this edge. And if I come up under Modify and I hover over the Fillet tool, please don't call it fillet, that kind of takes these sharp edges, these real geometric edges and rounds them off. And I know what the radius is 32. So if I click on it and I click on that line, I can start to push. And you can see here, it's a radius. And if I go ahead and type in 32 and I hit enter, I have now rounded that edge off to be 32. It's a really cool trick. There's probably 5 other ways I could do it. I'm going to go ahead and give one more a shot. I might not like it. I might come back and do the fillet anyway. So I'm going to come down to my timeline. I'm going to move over one step and I'm going to delete that step. I'm going to do it with a sketch. So I'm going to come in and create a sketch. And I know that it is a circle that is touching 2 points. So it's a 2 tangent circle. I'm going to click 1. I'm going to click 2. And this is a radius. So I'm going to type in 32. Now, I don't need all of this. I just need that little corner. So when I hit finish sketch, just like in the previous video, I'm going to use the sketch and push that out. And I have the exact same image. Right? Exact same 3-dimensional object, excuse me. So I could have used the fillet tool. I could have drew a circle. There's probably 2 or 3 other ways I could have done this. Both end up with the same little cutout. I'm going to go ahead and move and do, I'm going to save this kind of weird, like, looks like a half pipe from like a skateboard ramp. I'm going to save that for last. So I'm going to come in and do this little triangle next and this kind of rounded cutout. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save the triangle for last. I'll do this rounded cutout. So a couple of things I want to look at here. I actually am going to do a combination of a circle and a rectangle. And I see that I have 20 millimeters, right, by 16 millimeters. 20 by 16. And that rectangle that's 20 by 16 is 16 away from the edge. So that's a lot. I'm going to go ahead and come in here. I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to touch the top of that part. It's going to snap my view. I'm going to go ahead and do another 2-point rectangle. I'm going to make sure my mouse is on this line, and I'm going to just do a quick rectangle, and I'm going to come in with the sketch dimension tool. I know that this line has to be 16. I know that this line has to be 20. And I know the distance from this point to the edge. I clicked once, I clicked twice, I drag away, I click a third time, also has to be 16. So that is going to make all my blue lines black. That is going to go ahead and position the rectangle in the correct space. I have a fully defined sketch. I'm going to go back and look at the drawing again real quick. That is this rectangle here. But I need this kind of rounded semicircle as well. I'm going to use the circle tool, and I know exactly where to start. It's going to be in the middle of that rectangle's kind of edge, that last little line to the top of that rectangle. And I already know what the diameter of that circle is. It has to be 16 because it has to fit in that rectangle. So I come up. I'm going to do a center diameter circle, and watch this. I'm going to zoom in, use my scroll wheel. And I'm going to just move my mouse on this line from left to right and watch what happens when it gets where I think the middle is. Like you yell out, it's maybe like a Sesame Street game. Where do you think the middle is? Oh, that looks good. If you notice, it gives me this little triangle. And it doesn't give me like what the word is, but I see it up in the constraint menu. I'm going to click there. And I'm going to make it a 16 diameter rectangle. And when I come up to that triangle, ooh, it's called midpoint. Why triangle? I think because it's like a delta symbol. Delta, right? Difference. I don't know why it's a midpoint and delta is difference, but that's what I'm going with right now. But that is a constraint that I could actually force on it if I wanted. We'll kind of get to those later, but right now I'm just trying to understand what those constraints are. So I have that shape that if I go ahead and hit finish sketch, and I extrude the circle and the rectangle, all three portions of it, and I push it down. That is going to be my kind of rounded, squared off cutout. And we're getting close. I'm going to go ahead and do that little half pipe now, and I'm going to do it in two different steps. I'm going to make a rectangle that I extrude, and then I'm going to take the circular part of it, and I'm going to extrude cut that. It's a kind of good time to do it because I know where it sits. It sits flush up against this edge of this portion that moves up, and it's 40 by 28. And it is, how long? How long is it? Well, if the whole thing is 64 and it sits off 22, 64 minus 22 is 42. So it's 40 by 28, and it's 42 millimeters, like deep. Let's do the 40 by 28, and we'll come back to the 42. It's helpful to have a piece of paper. I'm kind of writing stuff down as I go, making little notes and jotting it down to myself. So 40 by 28, and then it's pushed 42. So I'm actually going to position myself so I'm looking at it like this, because I'm going to create my sketch here. And I'm going to use the 2-point rectangle. I'm going to start in the corner, and I'm going to go up and over. I'm going to use my sketch dimension tool. I'm going to go back and just double check with the drawing. It's 40 by 28. So this is 40. Oh, not 404. And this is 28. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish sketch. Wait for the little wheel. I'm going to extrude that, and I'm going to push it out 42 millimeters. In this case, it's negative 42 millimeters. And I hit OK. All right. And cool use of the measure tool. I could say, hey, from this line to that line, and it'll give me the distance. And notice that distance is 22 millimeters. And that is what my drawing says it should have been, 22 millimeters. I now have this rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the circle. I can see that the distance of that circle, its diameter is 24 millimeters. So I'm going to come into Fusion. I'm going to create a sketch. I'm going to create it right there. I'm going to zoom in. And again, it seems to be symmetrical, but I'm going to double check. But once I drag my mouse over, there's my midpoint. And I'm going to go ahead and make that 24. I'm going to hit finish sketch, and I'm going to extrude. I don't even have to pick the whole thing. I can just pick that. Extrude cut. And I'm going to get rid of that little notch, that little circular notch, if you will. I'm really close to finishing this drawing. The last is this rib, and I'm going to use the same idea, but not starting in like a midplane. I'm going to start on the edge, on the back kind of face of this. And I'm not even going to worry about dimensions because I know it touches those kind of two portions of the design that's kind of already finalized. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch right there. Sorry, my mouse isn't working well today. Create sketch. There we go. And I just know that there's a line. And that line goes from there. And notice that like the cursor changes. It knows I might want to grab on that point, and I'm going to zoom out, and it's going to go right to there. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish sketch. In this case, it did use the other kind of lines as a boundary. I'm going to go back to the drawing to see how wide this is. It looks to be 12 wide. There's this 12 at the bottom that is showing me how wide that is. So I'm going to go ahead back to Fusion. I'm going to extrude this. I'm going to pull it back towards me, negative 12. And I am done. Not bad. Hope you're able to follow along. Remember, you can always rewind, hit the pause button, go over different steps. and try to maybe draw it a different way. Try to start with different parts of this three-dimensional object and work your way around it, because remember, there's no right way to build it. There's just a way that works. Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll see you again. I'm hitting buttons that I shouldn't be.